Okay, so some folks had asked if I could do just some basic Audacity teachings, trainings. So that's what this is going to be. And what I want to do is just go an overview of some of the basics. So we end up seeing in Audacity here. Basically, what we're going to deal with, this is actually a podcast that I already recorded, but I'm going to mute it for a second, and just as if it's not there. So pretend that we wanted to record, say there's nothing in here. Now, I'm using, by the way, a Mac computer. So if you're using a Windows computer, it could be different. But I want to record. Now, you can click this button. If you have nothing here to record, you can click record, or the letter R in this case. One of the things that you notice is if something's already here, it's going to add it to the end. So I do Shift R, capital R, and that will start recording, as you can see, in a new track. Now, each one of these is called a track. And as I'm speaking, you're seeing that this is getting recorded. So I'm going to do this just to use this as an example of some things that you can do. So say I'm done recording. That's great. I got this done. I hit stop. Now I want to add a commercial. So I take my commercial here and I can just drag this in and drop it in. Maybe it's not a commercial. Maybe it's an intro, outro. Now, because this one here is so long, it tried to fit everything in the window. You can zoom in using this little plus sign, zoom out with that minus sign. So I can zoom in just to see, and the zoom is going to go, you see where this cursor is. Wherever that cursor is where it's going to zoom in. If I wanted to zoom out this one to the full length, or width I should say, that's going to go right back to where we were. So if I was to zoom in over here, where my line's over here, if I hit zoom, you see it's going to zoom in at that spot. Now, say you have your information here, you have this here, and what you'd like to do is kind of move this over. This icon here is your selection tool. This icon here is your time shift. So if you click on that, you can now move this. And the nice thing is, as I move this in Audacity, you see that, there it goes, it lined up perfectly. It'll show that little line where it is. Remember to go back to your selection tool. That becomes important because you can't select otherwise. Now, let me show you a little way to cheat. Let me move this back over. And if I wanted to, I could just, with the selection tool, just select these two tracks. And if you go up to tracks up here, you can say align end to end. This is what I do. And boom. Now let me zoom in again because you can't really see this with this longer thing that I have. But you see how it lined that up perfectly? That's helpful if you want to just line up end to end. Now say, hey, that's great, but I'd really like to get these two in one track. Well, what you could do is select the ones you want, go to tracks, and do mix and render. What this is going to do is mix these into one track. See that? One. That's nice. Now, you notice there's a little bit of silence there. One of the things I do, instead of saying like, things like that people say to pause so that they can think about something, just go silent. Why silence? Because you can select this, and here's a nice little trick. If you go to truncate silence, and I just happen to have mine at this threshold of negative 30 dB, 5 second, that's basically half a second duration, I'm going to replace that with 2 seconds, 0.2 seconds. So what I do when I click on this, you'll see this area right here. If it was silent long enough, maybe it wasn't silent long enough, but that would remove any of the silence that fits within that time frame. It's a nice little feature to do. Now, one of the things that's an add-on, we could do another episode on this if folks want, but there is something I got called compress dynamics. And I can show you this is a plugin that I use. The nice thing about this is with these settings I got from Daniel J. Lewis, you can see my audio here. I click on that one click and it's going to give the compression, so it kind of fills that out. So if I'm in this episode that I did that's above, I'm interviewing someone, our levels weren't exactly the same, but if I was to zoom out, you'll see that they kind of filled out. You can't really see so much where Jamal's speaking and where I'm speaking. That's what I wanted. And so that's something I can show you guys how to add if you're interested. But say you're sitting there, you're listening, you didn't like that. You could just highlight this and hit the delete button and it's gone. That's how you do editing. So basically you get someone that's saying a lot. Say this right. Well, this probably is me breathing right there. Yep, that's me breathing. I don't like that because I breathe heavy. So boom, gone. And that's what I tend to do. You can listen to what you're saying. Just hit the space bar once you select it, and you can hear what you say. If you don't want it there, just hit the delete button and it's gone. That's some basic editing. So you can select, you can delete, you can copy and paste using your regular copy paste controls. So if you want to get rid of stuff, just highlight it, delete it. This is basic what you end up doing. If I look here, that's probably I hit the space and yep, that's me breathing again. Gone. Just hit the delete button and it's gone. That's mostly what I have to do, is get rid of those things. So one thing to note, when you're recording, you want to make sure you're recording on your proper microphone. You want to make sure your speakers are correct here. Now, notice that I'm recording mono. I would argue and encourage you guys, if I go to File, Export to MP3, I want you to notice down here, this is what I am saying that you should have all of your podcast exporting to. Constant versus variable. Why? This is the bit rate, and what it's going to try to do is when it does the compression, it's going to find the right bit rate. And so a variable bit rate can, in the compression, you can start having some things happen where it tries to speed up, slow down, things that just keep it at constant. 64 kilobits is what we're recommending for podcasters that are doing voice. Please keep it at that, because remember, Blueberry charges us, and therefore we end up charging you based on the fact of how big the file is. The larger the file, the more downloads, that's how they charge us. So if you go higher, it's going to be a bigger file. Keep it at 64. It is the best quality for voice only, or mostly voice. Also, mark this as forced to mono. Why? One of the things you see here is, let me record something in stereo just so you can see it. If you want to remove a track, just click that exit sign. So I'm going to start recording in audio. Now, by the way, my cursor was over here, and that's why it started over there. It didn't start at the beginning. But notice that there's 2 tracks here. Now, if I want to stop, I could just hit the stop button. But by the way, you can just use your mouse to scroll back and forth, or you can use this down here to scroll back and forth. But notice it didn't start in the beginning because of the fact that this is where my cursor was when I hit the record. Now, if you have a stereo track and you want to force it to be mono, just click on this little option here, go to split to mono, and remove one. That's what I do all the time. But now we don't want this here. Well, maybe we don't want this dead spot there. Okay, just select that, hit delete. If we want to get rid of this altogether, we want this at the beginning, we would take our time shift tool, grab this, and just slide it on over. Okay, it's really that easy to do. Don't forget to go back to your selection. So those are some of the basic things. You have your control up here for your microphone, you may want to make sure that's up at max and your speaker's up, and then control it through your soundboard or whatever. And so these are just some basic things for you to do. Again, most often what you're doing is taking something you don't want, you highlight it, you hit delete, and it's gone. This right here is breathing. So typically what I would do is I'd hit play. By the way, my cursor was over here. Oh, I just heard my breathing right there. So what do? Highlight it, hit delete, and then what I do is I back up a little to make sure that still sounds good. Over here, and that's why it started over there. It didn't start at the beginning. Notice this right here, and another breathing. So let's just highlight that, delete it, go back. But notice that there's 2 tracks here. Now, that's basically what I do for the editing. Those are most of the tools that I end up using. There is a lot of different effects you could do if you want, and we can go over those in later videos. But I just wanted to give you guys some basics. And so once I have this done the way I want, I'll get rid of that. Then I go to File, Export, MP3, and, well, this is muted, so it didn't find anything. Okay, so let's do that again for you. Export to MP3, and I give this a title. Now, I want you guys to notice these titles. What I've tried to do, some of these are actually too long, but you want to have a title that is short. You can see how I've titled this. So rap is the rap report. I give the episode number. I'm thinking that I'm going to be doing 1,000 episodes of my weekly rap report. So I have 4-digit there. You don't have to do that. I put the zeros so that when it sorts, it always sorts properly. I have the W there just because it's my weekly versus my daily. And then I give a dash and a very short title. You want this to be short just because of the fact that the file name doesn't actually mean anything anywhere. But if you're looking up on Blueberry, it is hard to read sometimes. So try to name it this way. That would be helpful. And so those are some basic editing tools for you with Audacity. I'll do more videos as you guys have more questions. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know as you have questions. All right. Thanks a lot.